I think the purpose of the session is to, well, there's a couple of purposes. One is, I think we really just want to give you a sense of hope that you can do this. You can do this regardless of where you are. You can do this. Both of us have had some students that were, like right on the edge. We've had a couple of students that were on their last attempts, and I remember speaking to them, the week of ITC, and they were falling apart, and like, I need to change careers, and it's all a mess, and they passed, and obviously they're, horrified and stunned and amazed, and they're worried that SAICA made a mistake with the exams or something. But it can be done. It can be done. Can be done. Can be done. Fine. So that, like, I think is very important for us to get across. One of our passion between what we're doing and the reason we do it is that the more that we see the world changing and we see exams changing, the most frustrating thing for us as lecturers is to see students still going in the same direction and the exam is over there, so it's like you're working so hard, and you're running and you're running and you're running in the wrong direction. And as a lecturer, it's a lot easier to see that. I mean, how many years have you been lecturing, Francois?
Well, you can see from my gray beard, it's quite a few years.
Yeah, like I don't have a gray beard, but I've been lecturing for 15 years. I know, hectic, right? I've been lecturing for 15 years. So I have watched the changes. Stuff has changed, right? I have watched the changes in the board exams, in CTA, in third year, in second year, in first year. Like, I have watched these changes. It has changed. And so slowly but surely things have shifted to be, what they're looking for from you as a student is different, but students are still studying the same way because that's all we know. That's how we were taught to study. That's all we know. And so more and more, I feel like, and our experience with students, especially the repeat students, is like, Yvonne, I am studying so hard. I've done everything I can. There's so much work. I'm so frustrated. I'm so hopeless. Like, I'm so done. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I feel so stupid. Everyone else around me has passed. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what else to do. Like, I've done the best I can, and now what? So I think probably the most important message that I want to get across is that you need different skills to what you used to have in the past. So it's tough to explain in such a short space of time, and we'll go into detail and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But like, I want to be really, really clear that your biggest issue with passing ITC and the biggest reason that the failure rate is so high, especially for UNISA students, right? I mean, UNISA students, is because all the stuff that they've studied, they have worked towards a particular skill, calculations, memory, format, and then the exam is like discuss, recommend, advise, critique, calculate and explain, and students are like, I've never seen this before. It's unfamiliar. I don't know what you want from me. It doesn't make sense. No matter how much I study theory, I don't know what's going on. There's so much theory. I've done questions and I'm failing them all the time. And what it feels like for you, what it feels like is, I don't know my stuff. And so we cycle through more theory. I don't know my stuff. I don't know my stuff. I don't know my stuff. And so you go through more and more and more and more theory. And every question you look at is like, the hell is this? Like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what they want from me. I don't know what's going on. And then you look at the solution, you go, but I kind of know that stuff. Like, I do kind of know that stuff. Why didn't I? And you go, okay, next question now will be better because now I've done this question and I like, okay. And then you do another question and it's exactly the same experience. And it gets hopeless, completely hopeless. So I know that the biggest risk and the biggest temptation you have, and I want you to put it on a little post-it note on your screen where you study, is like, your biggest risk is that the words out of your mouth every day while you study is going to be, I'm not ready to do questions. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for the exam. I'm not ready to do questions. I'm not ready to do questions under exam conditions because I don't know enough. Those words are going to be the reason you fail. I don't know enough. I don't know enough, Yvonne. So, I did CTA last year. Now I've had a couple of months break and I don't remember my stuff and it's not recent. I'm a repeat student, so I did CTA a while back and I've, been cycling through ITC attempts. You're continually going to be drawn back into doing theory, more revision, more theory, because you feel like if I knew my stuff, I would pass. If I knew my stuff, I would pass. And unfortunately, there are probably lecturers who have told you the same thing. If you knew your stuff better, you'll be fine. And unfortunately, the reality is that I don't care how well you know your stuff. You could recite IFRS inside out and backwards. But when a different client comes and sits in front of you and says to you, my situation looks like this. This is what we've done. You cannot throw IFRS at your client and say, Section 45 of the Tax Act says, da, 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 here it is. And your client is sitting there going, what? What? That's not what I, hello, did you listen to me? Did you hear me? Like, I don't understand what you're telling me. Like, why are you waffling this theory off with me? I have access to Google. I can Google IFRS 13 myself. I don't need you for that. I need you to tell me what I must do here. So you have to understand and go through my situation. You have to visualize my problem, my situation, and then tell me what I must do. So I expect you to filter out all the relevant stuff, and you must tell me what I must do. Now, that is a very different skill, and that requires a very different type of studying and practice to, look, I know IFRS off by heart. And if I know IFRS off by heart and I know all my theory, then every single client that ever comes and sits in front of me and gives me a problem, every single one of them, I'm going to know the answer off the top of my head. So I think that is the biggest difference between how students need to be studying and what they need to be focusing on, and that inherent pull back to, if I knew my stuff, if I knew my stuff, if I knew my stuff. I don't care how well you know your stuff. I don't care how well you know your stuff.
A good example of this is, and I just saw it, I think it was one of our CTA students. I mean, all of this is relevant for CTA and for third year where students are struggling, but it was an overhead allocation question in management accounting. People struggle so with management accounting discussion, and they asked for 20 marks, discuss the overhead allocation. And now you can see the student knows all the work. They know when to use ABC, what it does, that it's more reliable, that the traditional method is arbitrary. So know all the stuff there, so they can write it down, 5 bullet points, but that's worth 0 marks. As you said, the client will say, okay, cool. It sounds like a part of that chapter 5 in Drury or whatever, but I just still don't know how will that solve my problem. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's hugely, it's like if you go to a psychologist, and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm struggling with, and they throw a psych textbook at you, and they go, the definition of narcissism is, you're like, whoa, I'm not, like, what even made you think I'm a narcissist? Like, where did you get this from? Like, what is up with you? When a professional client sits in front of you, they are expecting that you are able to break their problem down, which you've never seen before, never come across before. You're able to break the problem down, look at it, pull out the relevant knowledge and separate it from the irrelevant, and tell them specifically, this is what you should do. Now, that is a very different skill from the type of theory studying that we've always focused on. And just because you know your stuff does not mean that you're able to apply it. It doesn't. It's impossible. It's kind of like saying, I know what you look like, Francois. I mean, we've been working together for years. I know what you look like, and therefore I should be able to draw your face. And if I can't draw your face, that's because I don't know what you look like.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Exactly like that.
No, it's not. Why can't I draw your face? Well, because I don't have the skill of drawing. I don't, in order for me to draw your face, I don't need to look at your face more. I need to go to drawing classes. You know, if I have better skills of drawing, then I will be able to draw. But this is the difference. This is as big as the difference is that students are focusing on one skill. I need to know my theory. And then 2 weeks before the exam, they start doing questions to see whether or not they're ready to do the exam. Like, do I know my stuff? Am I ready to pass? And the answer is always no, because they fail everything. And then we hit the spiral of disaster of I either didn't write or I wrote and I failed because I don't know what they want from me. It's all too difficult. They want us to fail. SAICA is playing hardball, whatever the case is. The reality is, I want you to think about the way you study and ask yourself, am I studying in such a way that in 2 years' time, a client is going to come sit in my office and going to spill their weird story about whatever's going wrong in their business to me? And it's not going to look anything like the textbook. And I have to sit and pick it apart. And then I have to go, you know, have you thought about the tax implications of that? Have you thought about like the capital gains implications of that? Your client doesn't know. So when your client comes in and says, hey, I've just bought this amazing, I've spent all this money on this thing. What do I do with it? Your client expects you to tell them, this is what this means in your life. This is what the impact here is. This is what you should do. Be careful about this. Be careful about that. And, you know, you're like, there's a tax implication here. You know, this is what the tax implication is. Your client is not going to sit there and say to you, like, oh, here's a list. Okay, so tell me what the auditors would want from me. Okay, tell me what the tax is. Okay, this is the costing methodology we use. Can you calculate it for me? Your client's just going to sit there and say, we bought some stuff. Can you tell me what I should do with it? And you're the one who has to say, you have to trigger all the stuff that isn't relevant. Tell them why it's relevant. Explain it to them. And build up a solution for them.